Modern management relies on building a rigid, mechanical system out of unpredictable, fluid human parts. This tension is mapped out in the official Multimedia University teaching plan for course BHH6124, Human Capital and Organizational Behavior. On the surface, the document presents a chronological 14-week schedule designed for an academic trimester. The schedule maps a specific architectural design. This syllabus is a bipartite organizational matrix, split straight down the middle into two distinct disciplines. The left side, weeks 1 through 6, covers human capital. This is the structural hardware of the enterprise, the interconnected blueprint of boxes and straight lines. The right side, weeks 7 through 13, shifts to organizational behavior. This is the psychological software designed to run inside that hardware. To understand the course, we will build this dual-engine enterprise from first principles, constructing the hardware before injecting the software. Perfect structural HR systems are useless if management cannot decode the complex behavioral responses operating within those systems. Construction begins at week 1 with the baseline, job and organizational design. Weeks 2 and 3 establish the first operational sequence, covering personnel planning, recruitment, selection, and human resource development. These weeks establish the pipeline for acquiring and training raw human capital to fit the organizational design. This flowchart illustrates week 4 control mechanisms, compensation systems. These include pay plans, financial incentives, benefits, and performance management. Week 5 scales the framework globally, managing international industrial relations. The final structure arrives in week 6, HR information systems and analytics. HRIS translates the physical workforce into measurable, trackable datasets for management. By the end of week 6, the administrative architecture is complete. At this stage, it remains a static machine until human variables are introduced. Week 7 marks the critical transition from building rigid HR systems to analyzing the fluid dynamics of organizational behavior. Week 8 isolates the individual, focusing on differences and the Big 5 personality traits. Matching individual values to the organization, known as values congruence, is the first major behavioral hurdle. Week 9 introduces 4 specific forces that drive employee output: needs, equity, expectancy, and goal-setting theories. To direct these motivated individuals, Week 9 also identifies the core competencies required of leaders. Week 10 moves from the individual to the group, focusing on communication and decision-making. This includes analyzing the role emotions and intuition play in the process. Week 11 examines team dynamics, identifying the 4 processes and 4 constraints that influence team effectiveness. These 5 weeks of psychological software dictate how effectively the HR hardware runs, transforming data points into active, dynamic teams. In weeks 12 and 13, the structural systems and behavioral psychology collide. This collision produces 5 key phenomena: organizational processes, power, politics, culture, and conflict. Overlaying the rigid blueprint onto the fluid network reveals the 5 sources and 4 contingencies of power. These sources dictate the influence tactics employees use against one another. The structural hierarchy established in week 4 shapes the elements of organizational culture. Managing the friction between structural and psychological forces requires strategic approaches to conflict handling. Integrating new human capital into this political culture is achieved through the process of organizational socialization. Organizational culture is the measurable byproduct of the structural hardware processing the psychological software under the pressure of hierarchy. We can now view the complete 14-week timeline of the course. Grasping this dual-engine system requires practical, graded application. The syllabus assigns 30% to a group assignment, 30% to a group project, and 20% to a case study. This means 80% of the course grade is dedicated strictly to collaborative, applied output. Managing human capital requires real-world collaboration and case analysis rather than solitary test-taking. The journey moves from empty organizational charts to recruitment and compensation structures, eventually filling them with motivated, politically active teams. Success over these 14 weeks depends on how well these structures and behaviors are integrated. Mastering this syllabus demands becoming an architect who can integrate the data of HR analytics with the vital reality of human behavior.